Coming up, authorities file first-degree murder charges against a Fort Scott, Kansas man.
We're in charge of a windy Wednesday, and eventually we've got some winter weather on the way. We'll break it all down from the Skywatch Weather Center.
Also, as COVID continues to surge in our area, so does the demand for COVID testing. We'll tell you about one company trying to fill that demand.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 5 a.m. I'm Tanya Bach. We've got a little bit of a warm up out there, but it's not there yet. Let's go straight to my clay slip.
The afternoon's not going to be too bad. It's just a matter of getting there. And one thing that is going to help us out, and really did help us out overnight, Tanya, is the wind now coming in from the south at double digits. Kept us right around the freezing mark. 33 degrees is where we find ourselves at 7th and Rangeline. Still do have a wind chill in effect, though. Take off about 10 degrees off everything as far as what it feels like. As high as 35 right now in Chanute, as low as 28 in Cassville. Everybody else just hovering right around 32 degrees. We knew that wind was going to move in from the west, and it did overnight, as we're consistently up into double digits right now, and we'll gust up to 20-25 miles per hour. Not a cloud in the sky for us, though, and if you got to be on the road, any regional road trip you got, no worries whatsoever precipitation-wise. Coming off that mess that was on the mid-Atlantic, as much as 10 inches of snow dumped through portions of D.C. up the East Coast yesterday, but our attention is right there. Got that low pressure system on the move that's going to bring us some winter weather just in time for Thursday. Now, before we get there, blustery today, but up into the high 40s, so that's not too bad. Future track will show us we're going to be dry today. We're going to be cool overnight. We'll drop back down below freezing for Wednesday morning. Wednesday we stay dry. And then Wednesday night, we turn our attention up to the northwest, because just in time for Thursday morning, not everybody's going to see the snow, but at the same point in time, because it works in so early, want everybody on their toes for the Thursday morning commute. Won't stick around. Friday, we're up to 40, and Saturday pushing up to 60. And then we've got another cold front, Tanya, that hits us just in time for Saturday night into Sunday morning.
All right, we'll be keeping our eye on that. Authorities filed charges in last month's Fort Scott case. A relative found 48-year-old Melissa Mitchell dead from a gunshot wound inside her Fort Scott home on December 21st. They also found 53-year-old Leonard Zimmerman dead in the home. Police then searched for Melissa Mitchell's son, Dawson Mitchell, as a person of interest in the case. They found and arrested him the next day on a number of charges, including possession of a firearm by a felon. Now authorities have filed additional charges, including 2 counts of premeditated first-degree murder. With increasing demand for COVID testing, one local company is working to fill the gap. Seeds of Hope Staffing from Carthage is opening drive-through COVID-19 testing sites across the area. Right now, they have locations in Carthage, Joplin, and Neosho. Through a partnership with a lab in Ohio, they're offering the test at no cost. Officials say they're hopeful these sites will help increase accessibility to COVID-19 testing in the area.
We have been busy. You know, we had a site up in Carthage, and we still have that site. We've been up for 3 weeks over there, and it's getting really busy over there as well.
We've got a list of testing sites across the area on our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. Integris Health is asking people not to visit emergency departments to get tested for COVID. Officials say it can drain the department's resources that are needed elsewhere. Integris provided a list of locations in Oklahoma where you can get tested if you think you might have COVID. And that list includes Integris Express Care in Miami and Grove, Indian Health Services, the Ottawa County Health Department, Walgreens, Express Wellness in Miami, and Bearskin Wellness Center in Wyandotte. Joplin City Council approves an ordinance to require a permit to offer short-term rentals, like an Airbnb. Ordinance requires anyone looking to operate a short-term rental to get a short-term business license through the city. Officials say there are an estimated 70 to 100 short-term rentals currently being offered in Joplin, and the city has received complaints about several of them.
In some of the initial cases we had this year that did make it to council that were a little contentious, there were some comments on both sides, both for and against short-term rentals, for us maybe look at our code and rework some things, and we heard that feedback, and so that's also one of the things that made us decide to go this route in regulating them.
Council also approved on first reading a rezoning request to turn the old KODE building into a storage facility. And they approved on first reading a change to extend alcohol sales from 6 a.m. to 1:30 a.m. on Sundays, matching the rest of the week and the state norm. Pittsburgh voters in a couple of weeks will decide on a school bond issue for renovations at the Pittsburgh Community Middle School. Officials say the renovations will cost an estimated $16.5 million and will continue the current mill levy through 2045. If approved, the district would remodel classrooms, add a modern science laboratory, add an elevator for ADA compliance, and renovate the school's auditorium.
Anytime you can upgrade your school system and make positive moves for the community, I'm all for it.
Well, I'm all for it. I mean, that's where I went to high school, and so that building means a lot to me, and I think it's kind of a symbol of Pittsburgh, and I really hope that they refurbish it and keep it.
So I think it will add to the student growth, and I'm always for that. My daughter actually attends middle school, so I think that'd be a good thing for her.
We spoke with another resident who was against the bond but did not want to go on camera. He said he thought the district should just tear the middle school down and start over rather than continue to fix the issues with the current building. A woman in Miami, Oklahoma thought she had lost $200 for good after losing her wallet. But another resident stepped up to help. Last Thursday, Kia Greenfeather lost her wallet in the parking lot of the Miami Walmart. Her wallet was returned, but the $200 that was inside was gone. Greenfeather posted about what happened on Facebook. So an area businessman, Ben Fry, reached out and sent Greenfeather $200 to cover the loss.
I made another post to update everybody that it was found, but sadly, the money was missing. And everybody was upset, of course.
Everybody dreads the first of the month. I just felt like I wanted to make her year better, because that's just like a horrible way to start the year. So it could be good pick-me-up, just trying to help somebody out.
Greenfeather says everything else in her wallet was still there when it was returned. It's 5:07.
Right around the freezing mark, just about everywhere we look, anywhere from 28 to 35 degrees. Going to actually make it up into the high 40s, if not a 50 every now and then. It's going to be a blustery day, gusts of up to 40 miles an hour this afternoon, and then overnight dropping back down below the freezing point. Speaking of a Wednesday into Thursday, remember Wednesday night, early Thursday morning, here come the snow flurries, pushing in just in time for the Thursday morning commute.
That's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News, Oklahoma State quarterback Caleb Williams plans to enter the transfer portal. We're going to take a look at his numbers and see what potential schools can expect from him. Plus, experts tout a booming economy right now, but have you prepared for harder financial times? We want you to weigh in. And if you're feeling a little sluggish after those holiday meals, we've got 3 simple tips for dealing with the holiday bloat. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back.
Good luck trying to find.
Pittsburgh State men opened 2022 with an 8-point win over Missouri Western on Saturday. Bobby Arthur Williams providing a big-time spark in his first game back from an injury. Posted 24 points and 10 rebounds. Arthur Williams and the Gorillas back in action. Tough one on the road against second-ranked Northwest Missouri State. It was a 2-point game at halftime, but Northwest extends that and goes on to win 74-64. Still very respectable against the number 2 team in the poll. Tyler Hawkins and Quentin Hardrick each scored 10 for the Gorillas. As for the women's game, Pitt State trying to bounce back from Saturday's loss to Mo Western. First play of the game, Sydney Crane drives, bucket, foul. That's how you start for the Gorillas. Then Tristan Gegg heats up. She hits 3 threes in a row. Gegg, 19 points in the first half alone as the Gorillas are up 4, but the Bearcats fight back. Clock winding down in the first. Kaylee Keston knocks down the 3. Northwest Missouri up 1 at half, and they're able to hold on as the Bearcats top Pittsburgh State 66-62. Missouri Southern Lions also in action last night on the road against Mo Western. Men's game was postponed due to COVID issues in the Southern program. But for the women, show went on. Lions aiming for their first win of 2022. First quarter, Lacey Stokes on the drive. Haley Grant fires it from 3 and hits. Later in the frame, Cameron Call. She goes to work down low. Oh, that's a tough fall away. Western up 5 through the first. In the second, Lions stay hot from deep. Call left wing. And then Brooke Stauffer out to Lacey Stokes. Stokes had 19 points. Maddie Stokes had 21. But it's the Griffins that are able to finish it off and win 74-65. 6 local players have been picked to play in the Kansas Shrine Bowl this summer, and that includes Columbus standout Cody Schalk. Schalk, an all-conference, all-district, all-state player for the Titans on the defensive line. Finished his senior year with 63 tackles, 13 of those for a loss, including 4 sacks. Oh, by the way, he also forced 2 fumbles. As a Pitt State football commit, playing in the Shrine Bowl gives Schalk an early taste of playing at Carney Smith Stadium.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna just before the game get out there and realize this is the home for me. This is where I'm gonna be at, and I can't wait for it to start. All the kids I saw that are on the east side, I'm pretty happy to play with because them are some mean-looking kids that are out there. So I'm pretty happy I'm playing with them. They're all really aggressive people and great kids, and I'm just ready to look forward to play with them. Some of the best of the best.
Congratulations to Cody, and along with our 5 other local players that will play in the Shrine Bowl this summer. And you can check out that complete list on our sports page at KOAMnewsnow.com. Oklahoma Sooners quarterback Caleb Williams announcing he's entering the transfer portal. In a statement Williams released, he said he plans to speak to other schools and see who may offer the best preparation and development for his career, also saying that staying at Oklahoma is definitely an option. The freshman quarterback threw for more than 1,900 yards and 21 touchdowns this season, also rushed for 440 yards and 6 more touchdowns on the ground. Kansas City Chiefs snapped an 8-game win streak on Sunday, falling to the Bengals 34-31. Chiefs now 11-5 overall. Just 1 week to go in the regular season, and here's a look at your updated AFC playoff picture. Chiefs currently the number 2 seed in the AFC after Sunday's loss. Same record as Tennessee, but the Titans own the tiebreaker because, remember, they beat Kansas City head-to-head. So to get home field through the playoffs, Chiefs need to beat the Broncos and have the Titans lose to the Texans next week. Every team listed here is still in play for the number 1 seed, but if the Titans win next week, they will be the number 1 seed, have that first-round bye, and that, of course, means home field through the AFC playoffs. Still to come on the KOAM Morning News, another Hong Kong news outlet shuts down. This is the 3rd in just a year. We'll explain why and a check on our 7-day forecast when the KOAM Morning News returns. Just moving past 5:17, still a great time for weather on the 7s. Daily Almanac wanted to point out 1959. That was a chilly one now. That's back-to-back records. Yesterday's record was 1959 as well. However, it was just 0. Today's record, -7. Nice to see us all around the freezing point right now, really ranging from about 28 in Cassville, 35 in Chanute, everybody else 32, 33. Do have a little bit of a wind chill in effect. Not as bad as yesterday when we had single digits up to the north. Now it's hovering about 21, 22 degrees. Beautiful Midwest as well, clear as can be. Not even a cloud cover in the sky, but what we're going to concentrate on is what's coming out of the Pacific Northwest, now making its way over Big Sky country. Remember, the deeper the color, the lower the pressure, so there it is on that leading edge. And as it progresses, it's packing a good amount of snow right there. Also very windy as this thing rolls through. Now the question is, as it gets to the Rockies, how organized is it able to stay? But we'll have a pretty good indicator here probably by the time we get to the KOAM News at noon. Our Tuesday is going to be blustery by the time we get into the afternoon hours, gusting up to 40 miles per hour, but at least it's coming in from the south. And then by the time we get into Wednesday, it begins to die down. And look at the switch. That'll be our big temperature difference there overnight as well. Before we get there, we'll work up into the high 40s, if not throw up a 50 every now and then for our Tuesday. And then we drop back down below the freezing point after we see that wind shift. Of course, future track is really Thursday morning is what we're keeping our eyes on. Right there up to the northwest, Late Wednesday night, we see the snow begin to move in. And here's why I want everybody on their toes, because the timing of this is going to bring us snow early Thursday morning before most people hit the roads. Now, the temperatures are also going to be extremely cold. Could see in some places half an inch of snow accumulation. Not everybody's going to see the flurries, however, and it's going to stick around at least through Thursday, but then Friday back into the 40s, so it'll be relatively short-lived. Time now to turn our attention to the KOAM News Now Facebook page and our morning Insta poll as the U.S. economy enters the new year with serious momentum. Average weekly jobless claims near the lowest level in 52 years. Unemployment rate down to 4.2% in November. But economists say 5 risk factors could quickly change all of that. Jen Sullivan takes a closer look.
Heading into 2022, the economy is booming, but economists warn several risks this year can change all that, starting with COVID.
It's going to do damage. It already has started to do that. You could see that with the cancellation of air flights. Restaurant bookings are down. Credit card spending on travel is off.
Then there's the risk of inflation staying hot. While some economists predict inflation will cool off later in the year, prices for food, gas, and housing are still high. The third risk? Supply chains staying scrambled. The Delta variant impacted supply chains in several ways, including getting workers sick. And while it's still early, economists predict the same could happen with Omicron.
We see various goods still quite difficult to get. So I remain worried about those problems, even if they weren't quite as bad as we were worried about, a few weeks ago.
Then there's the potential for a Fed policy mistake. The Federal Reserve is ending its emergency support for the economy and plans to raise interest rates. One economist says Omicron could destabilize the economy and force the Fed to delay that.
The Fed may delay when it actually begins to start raising interest rates, which right now feels like it's going to be sometime May or June of 2022, but they could delay it.
Also on that note, after providing nearly $6 trillion the past 2 years, Uncle Sam is slowing support. Fiscal stimulus and spending are expected to slow dramatically in 2022. And finally, the unexpected, the risk of a surprise event that could impact the economy.
Examples of a wild card event would be a natural disaster or a massive cyber attack. Our question for you this morning is, how do you manage your money? Got several options on there, anywhere from day-to-day to owning property, perhaps straight to the bank account. Connect to us via Facebook or komnewsnow.com/vote. Health Watch is next.
Win up to
Topping Health Watch this morning, public school students in Chicago returned to the classrooms on Monday, but they might not be there for long. The Chicago Teachers Union is planning on holding an emergency vote on pausing in-person classes to hold them virtually. And that's because coronavirus cases in Chicago are skyrocketing to their highest levels since the pandemic started. However, district leaders have said if businesses around the city are open, then so should schools. The union meeting and vote is scheduled for today. All Starbucks employees in the U.S. have a little over a month to get vaccinated against COVID-19, and that's according to a message the company sent to employees on Monday. Workers who do not get vaccinated by February 9th would have to submit to regular testing, and they would have to pay for it themselves and cannot be taken at home. Starbucks is one of the first large restaurant chains mandating employee vaccinations. The mandate goes in line with the Biden administration's requirement that all businesses with more than 100 employees require workers to get vaccinated or receive weekly testing. If you gave in to those cravings this holiday season, you're not alone. This time of year, many people eat things they don't otherwise indulge in. And if they left you feeling not yourself, Mandy Gaither has 3 simple ways to beat the post-holiday bloat.
From candies and cookies to other confections, sometimes the holidays can leave you a little out of sorts.
The bloating is real and it's also uncomfortable.
But health and fitness expert Stephanie Mansour says there are 3 simple ways to beat that bloat. First, shift your focus to cooked veggies.
If you're someone that loves eating a salad, that's great, but that could actually be causing you to stay or become bloated because it's harder for your body to digest.
Tip 2, add hot lemon water into your everyday morning routine.
It's a great way to ease your digestive tract into the day and into the foods that you're going to be consuming.
And finally, get moving. That can help loosen things up.
Whether you're standing or sitting, These twists in yoga actually help to wring out the internal organs. So wringing out the small intestine, the large intestine, and helping to get the liver and the kidneys and all of those organs in your midsection going so that when you release the twist, fresh blood and fresh oxygen rush into those systems.
Since bloating isn't always diet related, a doctor or dietitian may also be able to help your gut get back to feeling healthy.
Let's all just do the twist. Manzor says to look at food as fuel. You might be able to start being healthier today by adding in some of these changes. Coming up in our next half hour, we'll tell you more about maintaining your fitness during the pandemic. That's a look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News.
Around the freeze.
Kansas attorney.
Coming up, authorities file first-degree murder charges against a Fort Scott, Kansas man.
We've got to fight the wind for our Tuesday. And eventually, we're going to be talking about winter weather headed our way before the end of the work week. The latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
Also, as COVID continues to surge in our area, so does the demand for COVID testing. We'll tell you about one company trying to fill that demand.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 5:30. I'm Tanya Bach. We're lingering really close to the freezing mark out there, Michael.
Well, pretty amazing that we can talk about single-digit wind chills for Monday. And even though we get around the freezing point this morning, we've got elevated fire weather to concern ourselves with. And then eventually, before the end of the week, we've got snow. I mean, we got a taste of everything here to open up 2022. On a positive note, we are much better off than what we were yesterday as far as our actual temperatures go. A whole bunch of 32s and 33s out there. We're able to escape the single-digit wind chills that we had Monday up to the north, sitting about 21, 22 degrees. Very seasonable for early January. Our weather trend for today with a whole bunch of sunshine lifts us up into the high 40s, may even throw up a 50 every now and then, but that icon right there is an idea of why we talk about elevated fire weather, because dry air mass moving in from the south, gusting close to 40 miles an hour all the way into the early evening hours. Now, as we work from Tuesday into Wednesday, watch the arrows flip on over, work in from the north. An idea that another cold front is moving in. Part of that low pressure system that we've been talking about coming off the northwest Pacific coast, and as it rolls through late Wednesday night, we begin to see the formulation of some snow that begins to the northwest, works its way through very early Thursday morning. So it's going to happen while the majority of us are sleeping. Here's the thing, you need to be prepared for Thursday morning's commute. Let's plan on getting out early, because we are going to have some defensive driving and bundle up. Thursday is going to be cold as well. Kind of short-lived though. Back into the 40s on Friday. And look at that, Tanya, pushing up close to 60 by the time we get to Saturday.
It's there. I'll take that. Well, authorities filed charges in last month's Fort Scott, Kansas double murder case. A relative found 48-year-old Melissa Mitchell dead from a gunshot wound inside her Fort Scott home on December 21st. They also found 53-year-old Leonard Zimmerman dead in the home. Police then searched for Melissa Mitchell's son, Dawson Mitchell, as a person of interest in the case. They found and arrested him the next day on a number of charges, including possession of a firearm by a felon. Authorities have now filed additional charges, including 2 counts of premeditated first-degree murder. The Omicron variant, employer testing requirements, and a shortage of at-home COVID test kits have left some people wondering where they can go to get a COVID test. KOAM's Chris Warner spoke with officials at Freeman Health System and with a group offering free COVID tests.
Getting a COVID test, let alone a free COVID test, is something that's not been easy lately. That's why the Seeds of Hope staffing agency out of Carthage decided to set up zero-cost drive-through testing sites.
It's really important because there's people that does not have insurance or anything, and we want to be able to have them be able to come down here and test and not worry, we're here to help the community.
They have locations in Webb City, Carthage, Neosho, and this one in Joplin at 7th and Rangeline. They have plans to open additional locations in Miami, Lamar, Nevada, and Pittsburgh.
We have been busy. We had a site up in Carthage, and we still have that site. We've been up for 3 weeks over there, and it's getting really busy over there as well.
They're not the only busy testing site. Freeman Health System is still offering its drive-through COVID testing site, and Freeman's infection prevention manager, Jessica Liberty, says traffic is increasing.
The last couple of weeks, we've seen almost 100% increase in COVID testing. That's just for a wide range of reasons, not even necessarily the weekly COVID testing for non-compliant employees, but more symptomatic patients in the community that are sick.
Liberty says they've seen another increase outside of just COVID cases and testing.
We've definitely seen a huge increase in respiratory illnesses of all kinds, especially the last couple of weeks with everybody getting together for the holidays and sharing germs. And I really do anticipate continuing to see that. We have seen an increase in COVID cases, but we've also seen an increase in other illnesses as well.
We've got links to testing sites across the region over at KOAMnewsnow.com. In Joplin, Chris Warner, KOAM News.
Integris Health advises people not to visit emergency departments to get tested for COVID. Officials say it can drain the department's resources that are needed elsewhere. Integris provided a list of locations in Oklahoma where you can get tested if you think you might have COVID. That list includes Integris Express Care in Miami and Grove, Indian Health Services, the Ottawa County Health Department, Walgreens, Express Wellness in Miami, and Bearskin Wellness Center in Wyandotte. Joplin City Council approves an ordinance to require a permit to offer short-term rentals like Airbnb. The ordinance requires anyone looking to operate a short-term rental to get a short-term business license through the city. Officials estimate 70 to 100 short-term rentals are currently offered in Joplin, and the city has received complaints about several of them.
Initial cases we had this year that did make it to council that were a little contentious. There were some comments on both sides, both for and against short-term rentals, for us maybe look at our code and rework some things. And we heard that feedback, and so that's also one of the things that made us decide to go this route in regulating them.
The council also approved on first reading a rezoning request to turn the old KODE building into a storage facility. They approved a change to extend alcohol sales from 6 a.m. to 1:30 a.m. on Sundays. This would match the rest of the week and state norm. Here's Michael with a look at your forecast.
Now, definitive chill out there. Wind chills about low 20s, but all things considered, these are pretty seasonable morning temperatures for early January, hovering right around the freezing mark. And call it even a mild afternoon, because with the sunshine, we'll work up into the high 40s, still up a 50 every now and then. Remember, it is going to be very, very windy this afternoon, 40-mile-an-hour gusts, and then that wind shifts on us. Once that happens, we drop down below the freezing point for Wednesday. And then for Thursday, well, we know we're going to get some scattered snow showers that are going to work in early Thursday morning.
And that's a look at our top news stories coming up this half hour on the KOAM Morning News. NASA launches the James Webb Space Telescope last week. Will it live up to the money and the hype? Plus, the number of daily COVID cases in Xi'an has dropped, but the city of 13 million people is still under lockdown. We'll have the latest. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back.
Looking for a career change?
Topping World Watch, a major media outlet in Hong Kong announces it will shut down today, citing the deteriorating media environment. Citizen News, which is supported entirely by crowdfunding, was the largest remaining independent news outlet following the shutdown of Apple Daily and most recently Stand News. Citizen News says the decision was made to protect the safety of everyone involved. Quote, unfortunately, the major changes in our society in the last 2 years and the deteriorating media environment have made it impossible for us to realize our mission without worries. Last Wednesday, pro-democracy news outlet Stand News was shut down after national security police raided its office and arrested 7 people. Last summer, Hong Kong's largest pro-democracy publication, Apple Daily, shut down after the arrest of multiple journalists and the freezing of millions of dollars of assets under the national security law. In China, the number of daily cases has dropped in the city of Xi'an with fewer than 100 infections on Sunday. The city's 13 million people are still under a strict lockdown. ahead of next month's Winter Olympics. Christy Lou Stout has the latest from Hong Kong.
There is growing desperation in Xi'an as the city enters its 12th day of lockdown. On Monday, China reported 101 new local cases, down from 131 a day earlier. And the vast majority of new cases are in the northern city of Xi'an. It's home to the famous Terracotta Warriors. It's also a major industrial and tech hub that is home to 13 million people. And ahead of the Winter Olympics in Beijing next month, China has been going all out to put an end to the Xi'an outbreak. Since December the 23rd, this entire city of millions has been under lockdown. Residents are forbidden from leaving their homes unless it's for a COVID test. They cannot go out for food or basic supplies. And there has also been public shaming of people accused of breaching COVID-19 safety laws. And on Sunday, Xi'an announced that 2 senior Chinese Communist Party officials had been removed from their posts to, quote, strengthen prevention and control of the epidemic, unquote. We've also been monitoring social media in China to get a picture of life in this quarantine metropolis. And on Friday, this footage emerged on Weibo of a man being beaten by COVID-19 prevention workers at the entrance of a Xi'an residential compound. The man was trying to enter with a bag of steamed buns. There is an altercation. The man stumbles. The buns he's holding, they scatter all over the ground. And in response to this viral video, local police put out a statement. They acknowledged that there was a dispute and that epidemic control staff assaulted the man. And afterwards, 2 staff members apologized and they were fined and detained for 7 days. The Chinese government has vowed to deliver 3 to 5 days worth of groceries to people still stuck in their homes.
On Monday, India began vaccinating teens from 15 to 18 years old. This comes as the country reported 33,750 new cases of COVID-19, over 4 times the 7,031 single-day cases reported just 1 week ago. As many as 14 states and union territories have COVID restrictions in place. However, large political gatherings with lax mask wearing continue. India has recorded almost 35 million COVID cases and 481,000 deaths. That's according to the country's health ministry. At least 90% of the country's adult population has received 1 dose of the vaccine, while 65% received both doses. The president of Brazil, Jair Bolsonaro, was admitted to the Vila Nova Star Hospital in Sao Paulo early Monday morning with intestinal subocclusion. That's according to the hospital. A statement from the hospital said Bolsonaro was in stable condition, in treatment, and will be reevaluated Monday morning by the team of doctors. At the moment, it's not known when he will be discharged. That's a look at some of your biggest headlines from around the world. Let's toss it over to Michael for our Something to Talk About.
Thank you, Tanya. This morning on the KOAM News Now Facebook page and our morning Insta poll discussing economics and the new year. Now, experts say the economy is booming right now. Average weekly jobless claims, lowest they've been in 52 years. Unemployment rate down to 4.2% in November. Now, having said that, experts also say there are some factors that could throw a wrench in all of this. COVID-19, for example. Then there's the risk of inflation, food, gas, and housing prices staying high, and of course the old supply chain issue that still exists. Federal Reserve plans to end its emergency support for the economy. And one more thing, we've always got to expect the unexpected. Our question to you this morning is, how do you manage your money? Right now, 56% of you say just on a day-to-day basis, 33% trying to stay debt-free, and 11% investing in stocks and bonds. You can take part each and every morning. Connect to us via our Facebook page, KOAM News Now. Go directly to the poll, koamnewsnow.com/vote, or we've got the QR code. Anytime you see that, no matter what show we pop that up on, that will take you straight to the Insta poll. And don't have to worry about it. Once you take a picture of it with your camera just once, you'll have it forever. We'll be back with the news you need to know before you head out the door right after this.
PSU's Bicknell Center hosts.
Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. Authorities filed charges in last month's Fort Scott, Kansas double murder case. A relative found 48-year-old Melissa Mitchell dead from a gunshot wound inside her Fort Scott home on December 21st. They also found 53-year-old Leonard Zimmerman dead in the home. Police started searching for Melissa Mitchell's son, Dawson Mitchell, as a person of interest in the case, and they found and arrested him the next day on a number of charges, including possession of a firearm by a felon. Now authorities have filed additional charges, including 2 counts of premeditated first-degree murder. Pittsburgh voters in a couple of weeks will decide on a school bond issue for renovations at the Pittsburgh Community Middle School. Officials say the renovations will cost an estimated $16.5 million and will continue the current mill levy through 2045. If approved, the district would remodel classrooms, add a modern science laboratory, add an elevator for ADA compliance, and renovate the school's auditorium. With increasing demand for COVID testing, one local company is working to fill the gap. Seeds of Hope Staffing from Carthage is opening drive-through COVID-19 testing sites across the area. And right now they have locations in Carthage, Joplin, and Neosho. Through a partnership with a lab in Ohio, they're offering the test at no cost. Officials say they're hopeful these sites will help increase accessibility to COVID-19 testing in the area. Integris Health is asking people not to visit emergency departments to get tested for COVID. Officials say it can drain the department's resources that are needed elsewhere. Integris provided a list of locations in Oklahoma where you can get tested if you think you might have COVID. That list includes Integris Express Care in Miami and Grove, Indian Health Services, the Ottawa County Health Department, Walgreens, Express Wellness in Miami, and Bearskin Wellness Center in Wyandotte. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
And when you do head out the door, hang on as the wind really picked up overnight, moving in from the south. We'll easily go about 15 to 20 miles per hour for the rest of the day. Gusts close to 40 miles per hour this afternoon. Really seeing it increase there out on the western portion of southeast Kansas. Temperatures have been hovering right around the freezing mark, so substantially better than what we started off with Monday morning. Able to keep our wind chills out of the single digit, and thanks in part to not only the sunshine, but the strong south wind as well. Temperatures kind of mild for this time of year, all the way up into the high 40s, if not a 50. But remember, the air mass that we have over us is a dry one as well, so we do have some elevated fire weather. Still looking at the system that's going to work its way in for early Thursday morning. That's going to bring us snow. It's not going to be widespread. Not everybody's going to end up with snow on the ground, but I want everybody prepared Thursday morning because defensive driving is going to be needed. Probably want to get out the door extra early for Thursday because it's going to happen early in the morning and it'll already have affected our driving by the time it's time to head out the door. 7-day forecast should be short-lived though. Friday up around 40 and then Saturday pushing up close to 60. We'll be back with more KOAM morning news right after this.
Move over Hubble. The James Webb telescope launched Christmas morning from the French Guiana. NASA spent $10 billion to build it, but if all goes well, we could see the universe as it looked right after the Big Bang. Here's CBS's Mark Strassman.
From its perch a million miles beyond Earth, the James Webb Space Telescope will glimpse the dawn of time like nothing before it.
The universe is this 13.8 billion year story, and we're missing some key paragraphs in the very first chapter.
NASA astrophysicist Amber Strawn hopes Webb's discoveries will fill in the blanks.
We will hopefully be able to see those first galaxies for the very first time. And of course, galaxies are the homes of stars, and stars are the homes of planets, and planets, of course, are the homes of life. And so this telescope is definitely going to be our next giant leap in our search for habitable planets in our galaxy.
Webb's 18 gold-plated hexagonal-shaped mirrors will align to create one giant mirror. It's 21 feet across, 6 times larger than the one on the Hubble Space Telescope. For more than 3 decades, Hubble has given us stunning, humbling views of the universe. But Webb will be a major upgrade. Like a night vision camera, this infrared telescope will search for heat signatures of the very first light after the Big Bang.
We're looking for some of the faintest objects that there are to see in the universe. In fact, we are looking for the faintest objects. If the telescope doesn't get cold, then it will actually glow brighter than the objects we're looking for.
To block the sun's heat from blinding Webb, engineers designed a first-of-its-kind Sunshield, the size of a tennis court. Its 5 layers will keep the telescope side more than 600 degrees colder than the sun-facing side.
This is material. This is Kapton material that makes up those layers of the Sunshield. This material here is about 2/1000 of an inch thick.
And because that Sunshield is so big, it and everything else had to fold up to fit inside the rocket. Once in space, Webb will carefully unfold and rebuild itself like robotic origami. Project manager Bill Oakes.
It's more complex than any satellite NASA's ever launched. It is hands down. The complexities of its deployment, the materials that it's been made of, has never been tried by a NASA mission before.
If any one of 344 parts fail, the entire mission could be jeopardized. About 1/3 involved deploying that Sunshield, 1,300 feet of cables, almost 600 pulley assemblies, and it all has to work.
A million miles out, something goes wrong, there's no call in AAA.
No, but I am confident that we did everything we could on the ground to maximize the probability of success of this mission.
Webb's first images about 6 months away. Worth the wait for the chance to see baby pictures of the universe. Mark Strassman, CBS News, Greenbelt, Maryland.
Speaking of looking up at the sky, we'll have another look at your forecast when we return.
Feed your happiness.
5:57, and while we're dry today, we're still awaiting this that's making its way toward the Rockies right now. It'll affect us by the time we get to Thursday morning. Tuesday is going to be windy. We're already picking up close to 20 miles per hour out there in Independence and Chanute, and we'll see the same result there from Grove, Joplin, and Nevada. Temperatures at the freezing mark coming up here in just a little bit. Let's talk about that snow that's headed our way just in time for Thursday morning.
Hashtag
Coming up, authorities file first-degree murder charges against a Fort Scott, Kansas man.
Now, we've got 2 days of dry weather left, but we also know that we've got winter weather that's coming. We're going to break down a little look at some early January snow from the Skywatch Weather Center.
Also, as COVID continues to surge in our area, so does the demand for COVID testing. We'll tell you about one company trying to fill that demand.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It is 6 a.m. I'm Tanya Buck. We'll get to those stories in just a moment. But first, let's go to Michael Hayslip, who's been tracking this system moving in.
Yeah, Tanya, here it is over the Pacific Northwest, making its way through Big Sky country right now. It's a big low pressure system, and once this thing ejects over the Rockies, it's actually going to be pretty interesting from a weather perspective because it's going to bring a band of snow that's almost going to act like a U shape here and get to the East Coast by Friday, get to us Thursday morning. In the meantime, our temperature is right around the freezing mark, 33 over 7th and Rangeline as we range anywhere from 35 in Chanute, and now we've seen Monette and Cassville bump up into the 30s as well. So substantially better than what we had yesterday, anywhere from about a 10 to 18 degree increase from our Monday into our Tuesday. And if you got to be on the road this morning, even this afternoon, it's absolutely gorgeous through the Midwest. But once again, there's our key factor. And this low pressure system, this dark area right here, it's moving. And it is moving fast. So by the time we get to this afternoon, we'll have a good idea about how organized it stays. Now, thanks in part to our strong south wind and sunshine, we'll be up into the high 40s later on today. And Wednesday, while chilly, not going to be bad at all. But the wind is going to shift on us on Wednesday, drop down below the freezing point there tonight into Wednesday morning. And then we pay attention to right here. Early Thursday morning is when it really begins to spread out through the 4 states. And we're looking at very, very cold temperatures, dropping down, single-digit wind chills. And the timing of it is what I want everybody to be on your toes for, because this thing rolls in, say, way pre-sunrise, probably starts about 3 a.m. out on the west. And so it will affect our Thursday morning driving. Let's all be prepared to get in defensive mode. We are going to see slippery spots out there on the roads. I know our road crews do a marvelous job, but it's kind of inevitable right now that that's going to be our key factor for Thursday morning. Tanya?
All right, thanks, Michael. Authorities filed charges in last month's Fort Scott, Kansas double murder case. A relative found 48-year-old Melissa Mitchell dead from a gunshot wound inside her Fort Scott home on December 21st. They also found 53-year-old Leonard Zimmerman dead in the home. Police started searching for Melissa Mitchell's son, Dawson Mitchell, as a person of interest in that case. They found and arrested him the next day on a number of charges, including possession of a firearm by a felon. Now authorities have filed additional charges, including 2 counts of premeditated first-degree murder. With increasing demand for COVID testing, one local company is working to fill the gap. Seeds of Hope Staffing from Carthage is opening drive-through COVID-19 testing sites across the area. Right now, they have locations in Carthage, Joplin, and Neosho. Through a partnership with a lab in Ohio, they're offering the test at no cost. Officials say they're hopeful these sites will help increase accessibility to COVID-19 testing in the area.
We have been busy. You know, we had a site up in Carthage, and we still have that site. We've been up for 3 weeks over there, and it's getting really busy over there as well.
We've got a list of testing sites across the area at KOAMnewsnow.com. Integris Health is asking people not to visit emergency departments to get tested for COVID. Officials say it can drain the department's resources that are needed elsewhere. Integris provided a list of locations in Oklahoma where you can get tested if you might have COVID. That list includes Integris Express Care in Miami and Grove, Indian Health Services, the Ottawa County Health Department, Walgreens, Express Wellness in Miami, and Bearskin Wellness Center in Wyandotte. Joplin City Council approves an ordinance to require a permit to offer short-term rentals like Airbnb. The ordinance requires anyone looking to operate a short-term rental to get a short-term business license through the city. Officials say there are an estimated 70 to 100 short-term rentals currently being offered in Joplin, and the city has received complaints about several of them.
And some of the initial cases we had this year that did make it to council that were a little contentious. There were some comments on both sides, both for and against short-term rentals, for us maybe look at our code and rework some things. And we heard that feedback, and so that's also one of the things that made us decide to go this route in regulating them.
Council also approved on first reading a rezoning request to turn the old KODE building into a storage facility. And they approved on first reading a change to extend alcohol sales from 6 a.m. to 1:30 a.m. on Sundays, matching the rest of the week and state norm. Pittsburgh voters in a couple of weeks will decide on a school bond issue for renovations at the Pittsburgh Community Middle School. Officials say the renovations will cost an estimated $16.5 million and will continue the current mill levy through 2045. If approved, the district would remodel classrooms, add a modern science laboratory, add an elevator for ADA compliance, and renovate the school's auditorium.
Anytime you can upgrade your school system and make positive moves for the community, I'm all for it.
Well, I'm all for it. I mean, that's where I went to high school, and so that building means a lot to me, and I think it's kind of a symbol of Pittsburgh, and I really hope that they refurbish it and keep it.
So I think it will add to the student growth, and I'm always for that. My daughter actually attends middle school, so I think that'd be a good thing for her.
We spoke with another resident who was against the bond but did not want to go on camera. He said he thought the district should just tear the middle school down and start over rather than continue to fix issues with the current building. A woman in Miami, Oklahoma thought she had lost $200 for good after losing her wallet, but another resident stepped up to help. Last Thursday, Kia Greenfeather lost her wallet in the parking lot of the Miami Walmart. Her wallet was returned, but the $200 that was inside was gone. Greenfeather posted about what happened on Facebook, so an area businessman, Ben Fry, reached out and sent Greenfeather $200 to cover the loss.
I made another post to update everybody that it was found, but sadly the money was missing, and everybody was upset, of course.
Everybody dreads the first of the month. I just felt like I wanted to make her year better, because that's just like a horrible way to start the year, so it could be a good pick-me-up, just trying to help somebody out.
Greenfeather says everything else in her wallet was still there when it was returned. 6:07.
About 15 to 18 degrees warmer this morning than what we had yesterday, as temperatures right at the freezing mark, and thanks in part to sunshine and strong south winds gusting up to 40 miles per hour. We're going to make it up into the high 40s later on today, but remember, that also brings us a little bit of an elevated fire concern because of the dry air mass hanging over us. Key factor is after a dry Tuesday, a dry yet chilly Wednesday. Here comes the snow for early Thursday morning. Works its way from west to east and will present some travel issues just in time for the Thursday morning commute.
Top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News, Wilson, Kansas experiences some winds that caused damage to a historic building. We'll have what the town plans to do to restore it. Plus, hitting the gym is always a New Year's resolution. Some keep it and some don't. We'll have a surprising fact about those who didn't gain weight during the pandemic. And President Biden is trying to keep meat prices down for consumers. Stick with us and we'll tell you his plan. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back.
This is Sergio's life.
In Consumer Watch this morning, President Biden is beginning the new year focused on rising meat prices as he tries to tackle inflation. He spoke with some of the nation's meat producers about his administration's billion-dollar plans to cut costs. Skylar Henry has more from Washington.
President Joe Biden met virtually with farmers, ranchers, and independent processors after announcing new actions aimed at lowering the price of meat.
We're going to ensure that you have the tools you need on a level playing field you deserve. And we're going to fight for fair prices for American farmers, ranchers, and families, all three.
The White House plans to distribute $1 billion of American Rescue Plan funding to expand and diversify the nation's meat processing capacity, in part by helping producers address inspection costs, purchase more equipment, and provide workplace training and safety.
We're excited about being able to have local processing done by local people and then sell directly to the consumer.
The Biden administration is also proposing new rules to crack down on anti-competitive practices and to further clarify the Product of the USA label, which for now also includes meat raised overseas and processed here in the U.S.
4 big corporations control more than half of the markets in beef, pork, and poultry. Without meaningful competition, farmers and ranchers don't get to choose who they sell to.
Federal data shows that food costs have soared nearly 7% since around this time last year, with beef prices up more than 20%.
The meats are so expensive now, I can't afford those meats.
The White House is also pushing Congress to pass bipartisan legislation to make cattle markets more transparent. Skylar Henry, CBS News, Washington.
U.S. Department of Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack says $375 million in grants to expand and modernize independent processing facilities will be available this spring and summer. Well, stocks started 2022 off with fireworks. The Dow gained 246 points. The Nasdaq added 187. S&P 500 was up 30. Apple briefly hit a $3 trillion market cap during trading hours, becoming the first company to reach the mark. The iPhone maker's valuation finished the day slightly below that historic level. Apple's market value hit $1 trillion in August of 2018 and $2 trillion in August of 2020. AT&T and Verizon agreed to a 2-week delay in rolling out new 5G wireless service after concerns are raised by airlines that it could interfere with some sensitive equipment on planes. That rollout was originally set to begin tomorrow. Federal Aviation Administration thanked the wireless carriers and promised those extra 2 weeks will be used by regulators, airlines, and wireless carriers to look at how best to minimize the potential impact on flights. That's it for Consumer Watch. We'll be right back.
Rolling up on 617, great time for a little weather on the 7s. These temperatures just about what we'd expect, if not a little bit better for early January, right around the freezing point. But we do have a wind chill, and that is because it's picked up. At least it's coming in from the south, but look at that. It only feels like 24 right now over 7th and Rangeline, but still much better than what we had Monday morning when we had the single digits up to the north. So we pretty much range anywhere from about 19 to 22 and substantially better than what we had yesterday. In fact, the warmer weather actually creeping in with the biggest portion of the big cold front that moved through now all the way on the east coast. But this is a little bit deceiving out here because remember, that's that low pressure system, and even though they've got positive numbers on the 24-hour temperature change map, that's going to bring us some snow here by the time we get to Thursday morning. So there it is. Big low pressure system that is actually just going to eject, if you will, right out of the Rockies and then make a U-shape and actually bring not only us some snow, but make its way to the East Coast by the time we get to Friday. There we are for the afternoon. That's why we've got the elevated fire conditions gusting in excess of 40 miles an hour. And this is a key factor for Wednesday. Look at how the arrows shift, still coming in and gusting close to 20 miles an hour, an indicator of much cooler temperatures to come here in the middle of the week. But for today, still high 40s, low 50s, not too bad. But as those winds begin to turn, that'll drop us down below the freezing point once again for Wednesday morning. We're going to be dry though, not only for today, but also for Wednesday. It'll be Thursday that we begin to watch the snow work its way in from the northwest. So here we go. And the timing of it, this is not the good part. I mean, timing of it is going to be early Thursday. And so we're going to see some treacherous driving conditions because it's going to happen pre-sunrise. I want everybody to be on guard. Watch out for the pets as well. It's going to be cold out there, and it's going to eventually be done there about the noon hour, but not a whole lot of warmth in sight for Thursday, that is for sure. Probably won't stick around on the ground too long though, 40 on Friday and close to 60 on Saturday. As we know here in the 4 states, the winds can take a destructive turn, and there's a town in central Kansas who was victim to strong winds, now figuring out how to rebuild a historic building. Joe Baker has more on what the plan to restore it is.
A staple in Wilson, Kansas, the Shermer, Horn, and Lang building has served its town since 1893. Many businesses operated in this building over the years, but for the last decade, it has sat empty. Storms damaged the building twice, once last month and once last May. Sharon Holloway ran an antique store here.
I was sick, just absolutely sick. I couldn't believe a double-walled building like that wind could take down, but it did. And that building's withstood a lot in Kansas in 100 and some years.
And this building is rare. You won't see another one like it in the area.
Front of the building is cast iron and pressed tin. And supposedly that's the only building between here and Chicago with a front like that.
It was constructed by the Mesker brothers, which is a very special cast iron company that didn't do that many building, and if there are any of them standing, it's very few.
The City of Wilson and the Wilson Tourism Hub are actively working to bring the building back downtown, but it's going to take money. They are looking for grants and donations.
But we do want to make sure that we save this original cast iron front and all of I would like to see us save these windows and as much of the detail as we can.
Well, I think it would bring back our history of what this town looked like when it was the first 10 or 15 years when it was originated. You know, a lot of history here.
When you look around Kansas and you look around the Midwest, there are towns that have basically more or less just given up and said, hey, whatever the future brings, that's not Wilson.
Be back with Health Watch right after this.
Topping Health Watch this morning, as many of us contemplate hitting the gym this year, British researchers, along with scientists from the Zoe COVID symptom app, found something surprising about folks who avoided gaining weight during the pandemic. Ian Lee reports.
When COVID shut everything down, Lily Hutchinson had time on her hands.
I really actually used that time in the pandemic to just exercise as much as I could.
With gyms closed across the UK, she biked at home until they reopened.
Welcome to your Wednesday Athletica session. I'm Amber, this is Kim.
Amber Nakamura taught classes online until she was back in her London studio.
So we've definitely seen a much wider group of people coming in.
She also noticed many newcomers shared something in common.
I think that probably scared and motivated a lot to just get in, work on their fitness levels, try to improve their overall health.
These stories aren't unique. In the world's largest nutrition study, with nearly 1 million volunteers in the US and UK, researchers saw something they didn't expect during the pandemic.
What's really surprising is our research showed that for a large proportion of the population, it was actually an impetus to get healthier.
Scientists found 32% of participants pushed themselves, losing an average of nearly 9 pounds. 33% ate more fruits and vegetables, while 22% snacked less.
The people that started off before the pandemic with the least healthy diet and lifestyle behaviours went on to lose weight rather than gain weight, to improve their diet, to increase their physical activity, and to improve their sleep habits.
Lily also noticed more than a physical change.
The mental rewards I get from it after are just beyond worth it.
The pandemic giving some the time to focus on getting fit, both physically and mentally. Ian Lee, CBS News, London.
And not everyone went on a health kick, though. While nearly a third of participants lost weight, researchers found about the same amount of people gained more than 7 pounds. The FDA has authorized boosters of the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine for children as young as 12. Regulators are also allowing anyone eligible for a booster to get it sooner, just 5 months after their second dose. FDA said children as young as 5 with immune deficiencies can receive a third shot as part of their primary series. A study in molecular psychiatry identifies a biomarker for depression. It can be found through a blood test, which researchers hope they can then also use to determine if antidepressant drug therapies are working. Washington State University study finds not everyone hates looking at themselves on Zoom. Researchers surveyed employees and college students. Those who were not very self-conscious had more positive attitudes towards their virtual meetings, while the more highly self-conscious did not particularly like seeing themselves on screen. That's a look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News.
Also, too, Tanya, I guess it depends on what you want to wear when you're on that Zoom meeting. You know, if you're rocking sweatpants and a sweatshirt, it may not want everybody to see that.
True.
Yeah. True. All right, we're already eyeballing what's coming off the Pacific Northwest right here. It's dropping a fair amount of snow and staying very organized as it gets ready to cross the Rockies later on today. It's a windy one already. Working in from the south, we've seen some gusts of close to 25 miles per hour, and that's going to take us all the way through the afternoon and evening hours before those wind arrows dramatically shift. Now, with that being said, since it is coming in from the south, pre-sunrise temperatures, sunrise will be at 7:32 on this Tuesday morning. Pre-sunrise temperatures right at a couple degrees either way of the freezing mark, and that's about 15 to 18 degrees warmer than what we had yesterday morning. Creeping up into the high 40s today. Remember, wind's not going to go anywhere, and what that means is elevated fire weather for our Tuesday. Eventually, it does shift, and once it does for Wednesday, works in from the north, so we've got much cooler temperatures here middle of the week. And remember, here comes the snow. It'll be on us for early Thursday morning. Coming up here in just a little bit, we'll take a look at this system that's making its way toward us as we speak and find out just how far it's going to traverse.
The big. Coming up, authorities file first-degree murder charges against a Fort Scott, Kansas man.
We've got 2 days of dry weather before this system brings us winter weather. We'll have the latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
Also, as COVID continues to surge in our area, so does the demand for COVID testing. We'll tell you about one company trying to fill that demand.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 6:30. I'm Tanya Bach. We'll get to those stories in just a moment, but first we've got a system moving our way. Michael?
It's moving, so I tell you what, moving. Yeah, it is. This thing's got some legs on it now. There it is. It's already approaching the Rockies, and we're going to have a real good idea how this thing stays organized here, probably by the KOAM News at noon. 33 degrees is where we stand over 7th and range line. Feels like 24 right now. Temperatures hovering right around the freezing mark. If you got a road trip for your Tuesday, you are in luck. There are absolutely no travel concerns. So this is what we're eyeballing. Darker the color, the lower the pressure right there. And so this thing is, like I said earlier, that red blob was about right there in the span of 90 minutes. That's how much it's been able to move across the upper plains. Now, before we get there, Tuesday afternoon going to be great, whole bunch of sunshine, but we're going to have to fight very strong winds gusting up to 40 miles an hour this afternoon. And then the key factor is as we progress from Tuesday into Wednesday, look at these arrows shift the opposite way. That north wind is going to provide a much chillier Wednesday than what we'll have this afternoon. But at the same point in time, Wednesday stays dry as well. So if you got travel plans there, you're good to go. Thursday morning, this is where our tune changes. works in from the northwest, as it does early Thursday morning. It's going to affect our travel. Not everybody's going to end up with snow, but at the same point in time, we haven't had to worry about defensive driving in a while. Kicks out by about the noon hour, but let's all make sure that we get a head start here Thursday morning. Slow down. We'll all get there in one piece if we just remind ourselves that Thursday morning is the day where we need to get into winter driving mode.
Winter driving mode. Be ready for it, guys. Well, authorities have filed charges in last month's Fort Scott, Kansas double murder case. A relative found 48-year-old Melissa Mitchell dead from a gunshot wound inside her Fort Scott home on December 21st. They also found 53-year-old Leonard Zimmerman dead in the home. Police started searching for Melissa Mitchell's son, Dawson Mitchell, as a person of interest in the case. They found and arrested him the next day on a number of charges, including possession of a firearm by a felon. And now authorities have filed additional charges, including 2 counts of premeditated first-degree murder. With increasing demand for COVID testing, one local company is working to fill the gap. Seeds of Hope Staffing from Carthage is opening drive-through COVID-19 testing sites across the area. Right now, they have locations in Carthage, Joplin, and Neosho. Through a partnership with a lab in Ohio, they're offering the test at no cost. Officials say they're hopeful these sites will help increase accessibility to COVID-19 testing in the area.
We have been busy. You know, we had a site up in Carthage, and we still have that site. We've been up for 3 weeks over there, and it's getting really busy over there as well.
We've got a list of testing sites across the area on our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. Integris Health is asking people not to visit emergency departments to get tested for COVID. Officials say it can drain the department's resources that are needed elsewhere. Integris provided a list of locations in Oklahoma where you can get tested if you think you might have COVID. That list includes Integris Express Care in Miami and Grove, Indian Health Services, the Ottawa County Health Department, Walgreens, Express Wellness in Miami, and Bearskin Wellness Center in Wyandotte. Well, the Cedric Lofton case has a new update in it. If you don't remember, it's the high-profile case from Wichita where the 17-year-old boy died in the custody of corrections officers and his death was ruled a homicide. Now there's protests calling for a special prosecutor in his case. Sean Lodging has more on what protesters are asking for.
I just want justice for my brother, Cedric Lofton. Just want you to say his name, Cedric Lofton.
Continued calls for action in the Cedric Lofton case.
We want accountability for what happened to CJ, and we want to also make sure that this doesn't happen again.
At a protest Monday morning organized by Community Empowerment and Resilience Coalition, joined with other groups and individuals seeking change in how this case is going forward.
Let justice be served properly. That's not going to happen with Mark Bennett. We just don't believe that.
In a letter, they list 3 demands. First, that a special and independent prosecutor be assigned to the case. The group says, based on how this case was presented initially, they don't have confidence now.
Just the handling of it, the misrepresentation, the false statements that were made in the press release by Sheriff Jeff Easter and Mark Bennett.
They're also calling for the release of video evidence and the names of people involved in the events leading up to Lofton's death.
There's the cases where there's no charges, where there's no firings, where there's no suspension. It's just tiring to see a community that is constantly suffering abuse and not getting any justice.
This comes a week after the release of the autopsy report listing the manner of death as a homicide. Although in this context it means the death was the result of someone else's actions, it's not a legal conclusion and doesn't imply intent. Those at the protest say what Lofton's case also highlights is the need for changes in how mental health and juvenile cases are handled.
Policies and procedures that were in place to allow his death to happen is a result of the lack of attention and lack of priority to reform our juvenile justice system here in Kansas.
Let's head over to Michael with the latest look at your forecast.
Tanya, these temperatures are about 15 to 18 degrees warmer this morning than what we had yesterday. Reason is, look at this south wind. It's already picked up to about 20 miles per hour, 22 right now in Chanute, and in Independence, 18 miles per hour in Chanute. But it does provide for above average temperatures for today. Remember, not only does the wind shift for Wednesday, where it will be chillier, but then we've got the snow coming early Thursday morning.
Let's look at our top news stories coming up this half hour on the KOAM Morning News. With the January 6th Capitol insurrection around the corner, it's on Americans' minds, and we'll have what President Biden and former President Trump are doing to commemorate the day. Plus, right now the economy is booming and unemployment is down, but there could be a wrench thrown in that for several reasons. Today, in our Something to Talk About, we want to know, how do you manage your money? We let you weigh in. We'll be right back.
If you are interested.
Topping Nation Watch this morning, a poll by CBS finds that most Americans think something like January 6th of last year will happen again. People who also participated in the poll say the events of that day see it as a sign of increasing political violence. Chris Van Cleve has more on what the January 6th committee is saying about the day, as well as how President Biden and former President Trump are planning to do to commemorate that day.
People have got to understand the danger of President Trump and the danger that he posed on that day.
Congresswoman Liz Cheney, the Republican vice chair of the House Select Committee investigating the January 6th attack on Face the Nation Sunday.
The committee has firsthand testimony that President Trump was sitting in the dining room next to the Oval Office watching on television as the Capitol was assaulted, as the violence occurred. We know that that is clearly a supreme dereliction of duty.
Mississippi Democrat Benny Thompson chairs the January 6th committee and says there's evidence members of Congress interacted with some rioters.
Some took pictures with people who came to Stop the Steal rally, allowed them to come and associate in their offices and other things during that whole rally week.
Nearly a year after the attack, a CBS News poll found 85% of Democrats call it an insurrection, while 47% of Republicans call it patriotism, and 56% of Republicans say participants were defending freedom. A majority expect violence over losing in future presidential elections. Capitol Police Chief Thomas Manger says threats to lawmakers have accelerated.
Where does the threat level stand right now?
It's exponentially higher than it was 5 years ago. It remains to be seen if it just keeps increasing at the level that it has increased, or do we as a country get to a point where enough people say enough is enough.
President Biden and Vice President Harris plan to mark the one-year anniversary of January 6th here at the Capitol. Former President Trump is planning a news conference in Mar-a-Lago. Chris Van Cleve, CBS News, Washington.
Well, she was once the darling of Silicon Valley. Elizabeth Holmes promised groundbreaking blood tests with her tech startup Theranos. But allegations surfaced that she knowingly misled investors, doctors, and patients. Now she faces prison time and hefty fines after being found guilty on 4 of 11 federal fraud charges. Conspiracy to commit wire fraud against Theranos investors, guilty. 3 wire fraud charges from 2014 totaling more than $144 million, all guilty, and she was found not guilty on 4 other fraud charges, including the ones related to patient fraud. Jury was deadlocked on 3 of the charges concerning defrauding investors, but the judge is expected to declare a mistrial on those charges. When the former Silicon Valley entrepreneur will be sentenced has not yet been decided. That's a look at today's top national stories. Check back in with Michael for our Something to Talk About.
Thank you, Tanya. This morning on the KOAM News Now Facebook page and our morning Insta poll, we're discussing economics in the new year as experts say the economy is booming right now. Average weekly jobless claims, lowest we've seen in 52 years. Unemployment rate down to 4.2% in November. Having said that, experts also say there are some factors that could throw a wrench in it all. Now, there's COVID, there's the risk of inflation, food, gas, housing prices, very, very high. And of course, the supply chain issue still exists. Federal Reserve saying it plans to end its emergency support for the economy. And then there's what's known as the wild card. Could be anything from a natural disaster or perhaps even another variant. Our question to you is, how do you manage your money? Right now, 54% of you say best thing to do is stay debt-free, while 28% say got to go at it day by day. And then we've got 15% that rely on the old bank account. Well, we're going to come back and celebrate birthdays and anniversaries, but first, let's check in with Tony, see what's coming up on CBS Mornings.
Hey, I'm Tony DeCopel. Coming up on CBS Mornings, James Corden talks about his commitment to health
and celebrating 1,000 episodes of The Late Late Show. That is coming up on CBS Mornings.
Spin it.
We take this time to honor today's four-state hero, Private First Class William Ray McLuhan. Served in the U.S. Army from 1953 to 1955, including wartime service in Germany. His hometown, McCune, Kansas. We thank
number one. Laramie Kate, a very happy birthday with lots of love from Grandma and Sparky as she's going to party on in Cherryvale.
All right, and in Columbus, Avery Soper turning 14 years old. Happy birthday, Avery.
Landon Martin with a 15th birthday. Landon, a very happy birthday. I want you to enjoy your special day in Riverton.
All right, in Chanute, Mariah Dyson celebrating birthday number 23 this year.
Josie Ridenour had a birthday yesterday. We'll continue to celebrate it, Josie. She is in Pittsburgh.
All right, and we've got Ryan Olson here in Chanute. There with little Hazley Joe, turning 24.
Got a continuation of a birthday as well for one Michael Miranda. Michael is celebrating his 37th. And Michael, this birthday wish comes with love from Mom and Dad. He is in Joplin.
Out in La Harpe, Kansas, Kristen Splector turning 45 years old this year. Happy birthday, Kristen.
Our good friend Dottie Horn is celebrating her 64th birthday. Blessed she is. And Miss Horn is in Chanute.
All right, Jimmy Jones celebrating the big 8-0 this year. Looking great there, Jimmy, in Fort Scott.
Big party celebration in Carl Junction. On the left there is Kelsey Allen. And then the gentleman on the right, that happens to be Kelsey's husband, Clinton. Now get this. Birthday for Clinton was yesterday. Kelsey's is today. Separated by one day, and they were both born in the same hospital. So they actually spent time together before they spent time together. A very happy birthday to both Kelsey and Clinton. Beverly Rockmeyer, she has a birthday in the bus. Miss Beverly, a happy birthday to you. And Pete Willie, or should I say the Honorable, because he is the former mayor of Mulberry and also a former firefighter. Mr. Willie, a happy 77th birthday, as he still resides in the place that he once looked after in Mulberry. A happy birthday, happy anniversary to all. That's where you can send them into birthdays at KOAMTV.com. You can also go to our website at KOAMNewsNow.com. Now here's Tanya Bach with a very important birthday announcement.
Sure, you can be a part of the KOAM Birthday Club by going to our website and signing up. And once you do, you get special deals from local businesses. Go to KOAMNewsNow.com and sign up for the KOAM Birthday Club today.
Here's a look at what's coming up on KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. We've got a heartwarming reunion between a woman and her dog. Now get this, the dog was stolen during a walk. We're going to explain exactly what happened and how the two got back together when you join us for the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. Let's transition out to 7th and Rangeline in Joplin. Pretty quiet intersection so far on this Tuesday morning, right at, if not above, the freezing mark. 33 degrees is where we stand. We're anywhere from about 35, seeing Cassville drop back down to 29, but considerably better than what we had yesterday. This is about 15 to 18 degrees warmer than what we experienced on Monday, and been able to enjoy the fruits of some high pressure that's hanging over us, bringing us very clear skies and great travel conditions. Even the portions where we do see the clouds beginning to bubble up out to the west, staying on the dry side for today, but that is going to change by the time we get to Thursday, because this low pressure system is going to do what they call eject over the Rockies. It's going to swoop down through us and continue to make its way all the way to the East Coast by the time we get to Friday. Before we get there, let's tackle Tuesday and Wednesday. Number one, it's going to be windy. At least it comes in from the south. And with the sunshine that officially rises over Joplin at 7:32, temperatures up into the high 40s later on this afternoon. Key factor, elevated fire conditions, because we are, number one, so dry. Number two, we're gusting up to 40 miles per hour. But now as we work into Wednesday morning, Watch these arrows do a 180 on us, and once they start working in from the north, much cooler temperatures. Wind's not going to be as bad on Wednesday, but it really will cool us down quite a bit. We'll go from the high 40s today, stuck in the 30s there on Wednesday, with overnight definitely dropping below the freezing mark. Then we get into Thursday morning. This is what we're anticipating. That's snow that works in from the northwest right there. And the key factor is the timing of it all, because this is going to happen before we have any sunlight. So if you're one of those that has to get out and about early in the morning, I need you to get out extra early. Let's all slow down, plan on those roads being slippery, and even though our road crews do just a marvelous job each and every year, this is one of those times where we need to get into old defensive driving mode. Now, we talk about this thing after it gets over the Rockies. It makes a U-shape, and so it almost gathers back up steam after it crosses the Mississippi here. They'll actually get a much more snowfall throughout the Tennessee River Valley and up through the Ohio River Valley than what we'll experience. We'll see anywhere from half an inch to an inch. Not going to stick around long though, because look at this, Friday 40, and then almost close to 60 by the time we get to Saturday. We'll be back with more KOAM Morning News right after this.
Whether you're suffering
CBS.
Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. Authorities filed charges in last month's Fort Scott, Kansas double murder case. Relative found 48-year-old Melissa Mitchell dead from a gunshot wound inside her Fort Scott home on December 21st. They also found 53-year-old Leonard Zimmerman dead in the home. Police started searching for Melissa Mitchell's son, Dawson Mitchell, as a person of interest in the case. They found and arrested him the next day on a number of charges, including possession of a firearm by a felon. And now authorities have filed additional charges, including 2 counts of premeditated first-degree murder. Pittsburgh voters in a couple of weeks will decide on a school bond issue for renovations at the Pittsburgh Community Middle School. Officials say the renovations will cost an estimated $16.5 million and will continue the current mill levy through 2045. If approved, the district would remodel classrooms, add a modern science laboratory, add an elevator for ADA compliance, and renovate the school's auditorium. With increasing demand for COVID testing, one local company is working to fill the gap. Seeds of Hope Staffing from Carthage is opening drive-through COVID-19 testing sites across the area. Now, right now, they have locations in Carthage, Joplin, and Neosho. Through a partnership with a lab in Ohio, they're offering the test at no cost. Officials say they're hopeful these sites will help increase accessibility to COVID-19 testing in the area. Integris Health is asking people not to visit emergency rooms to get tested for COVID. Officials say it can drain the department's resources that are needed elsewhere. Integris provided a list of locations in Oklahoma where you can get tested if you think you might have COVID. That list includes Integris Express Care in Miami and Grove, Indian Health Services, the Ottawa County Health Department, Walgreens, Express Wellness in Miami, and Bearskin Wellness Center in Wyandotte. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
Close to 50 degrees this afternoon. Very windy on a Tuesday. And then as the wind shifts, it'll work in from the north on Wednesday. Much cooler. Anticipate below freezing temperatures for tomorrow morning. And then here comes Thursday morning. It'll be pre-sunrise when the snow works in from the west. It will affect our Thursday morning travel. Let's be on our toes and keep up with your radar beginning today.
Coming up today at noon, we're making quick as a wink Greek chicken in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
And nearly 1 year after the January 6th insurrection of the United States Capitol, the task of bringing rioters to justice continues. Coming up on CBS Mornings, the top prosecutor who launched the ongoing investigation talks about the work that's still left to do.
Or you can switch on over with us on Fox 14, where your only local morning news continues. And this morning, we are taking a look into George Clooney's latest movie, where he's behind the camera.
Plus, bees not only dying in the United States, but around the world as well. We're going to tell you how one group is making sure this environmental treasure is saved. So stick with us. Join us over on Fox 14, and of course we'll continue to monitor this low pressure system because it is moving, and it is moving fast. That wraps it up for this Tuesday edition of the KOAM Morning News. Do me a favor, be safe. We'll do this all again tomorrow morning.
And we'll do it again today at noon.